breaking news for U.S. Colombia relations. If you're not familiar with my channel, I report the news for Central and South America with a special attention on Medellin, Colombia, and Colombia as a whole. Today I have 3 stories specific to U.S. and Colombia relations, and it's going to get into the military. But I'm also introducing at the end a new segment called the Expat Corner. So if you are an expat who lives in Medellin or anywhere else in Colombia and you have a story to tell, send it to me. I will read the story. That's as simple as how it's going to go. Today I have Ed Richardson, a friend from when I actually lived there. So I go back with this cat for quite a few years. So this is some good information coming. So make sure you stick around for that story. Let's get into this first one right away. Deportations of Colombians from the U.S. are on the rise. More than 23,000 Colombians have been expelled in 2025. Colombia is the 5th Latin American country with the most deportations from the U.S. Under the Trump administration, deportation flights increased by 15%, many of them without public identification or tracking, making these operations difficult to monitor. Everything indicates that the number will continue to rise. The number of Colombians deported from the United States has reached a record high in the last decade. So far in 2025, a total of 23,045 Colombians have been expelled from the North American country, a trend that has intensified since Donald Trump returned to the White House. According to Track Reports data, this figure far exceeds records from previous years. 15,220 deportations were reported in 2024 and 11,290 in 2023. The increase in deportations has been so marked that Colombia currently ranks 5th in Latin America with the most citizens deported from the United States this year, behind Mexico with 77,925, Honduras 53,604, Guatemala 53,886, and Venezuela 26,578. Beyond the increase, another factor has raised concerns among human rights advocates and transparency organizations: the lack of access to information about deportation flights. Under the current Trump administration, many of these flights are operated by private companies contracted by the government, which have requested that their aircraft identification numbers be withheld from public records. The air tracking website Flight Trader 24 revealed in March that these subcontractors had requested the removal of aircraft IDs, a practice that prevents their movement from being tracked. This has led to them being dubbed ghost flights, as they cannot be tracked by journalists or organizations. It's like taking the license plate off a car so it can't be identified, explained a CNN report that exposed the situation. The White House didn't deny the report. On the contrary, it validated one of the pieces of information provided by the outlet. What is President Donald Trump's deportation plan and how does it affect Latin America? Since January, more than 1,000 deportation flights have been recorded, representing a 15% increase compared to the same period in 2024. In June alone, 18,000 people were deported, most of them on domestic flights that transport detained migrants between different centers before their repatriation. One of the airlines involved, Avelo Airlines, confirmed it operates 3 aircraft for these missions at the request of the U.S. government. Flights operated on behalf of the U.S. government are often not identified at the request of the government itself, a company spokesperson said. Experts point out that this increase is due to a change in immigration policy compared to the previous administration. President Trump is increasing deportations from within the country, unlike President Biden, who deported more people from the border, explained Ariel Ruiz Soto, senior analyst at the Migration Policy Institute, in an interview with Caracol Radio. The Trump administration has promised to deport 1 million undocumented migrants by 2025. To meet this goal, the number of flights is expected to increase in the coming months. Next up, the Ministry of Defense approved the deployment of U.S. troops in the Caribbean Sea, announced by Marco Rubio. For General Pedro Sanchez, cooperation with the United States is important to combat drug trafficking and illegal armed groups. Defense Minister General Pedro Sanchez endorsed the United States government's decision to deploy U.S. troops to the Caribbean Sea to pursue Latin American drug traffickers. After Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced this decision, The minister asserted that the military cooperation with what country has been vital in the fight against armed groups and the seizure of goods in Colombian seas. We've currently seized 600 tons of cocaine, the highest figure ever, 16% more than last year. And part of that seizure is due to cooperation mechanisms, Sanchez said. The head of the ministry recalled the National Navy's Orion operations in the fight against drug trafficking with the United States, as well as the cooperation with the Colombian Aerospace Force under its Zeros strategy. In this regard, the head of the Ministry of Defense approved the arrival of U.S. forces to Colombian territory and emphasized the importance of combating international organized crime. The deployment of these forces in different countries, respecting sovereignty and in accordance with international cooperation protocols, will always be welcome. And it is key here that cohesion among nations radically affects international organized crime, he noted. For now, President Gustavo Petro, who has had strong clashes with the Trump administration, has not commented on this decision to deploy military forces in Colombian waters. Secretary of State Marco Rubio argued that this decision is in defense of U.S. national security against drug cartels and in taking advantage of the cooperation it has with several countries. These groups are operating with impunity in international waters, simply exporting poisons to the United States. They are killing and destroying communities, Rubio said. Likewise, the Secretary of State recalled that the Maduro regime is not a government, it's a criminal organization, while referring to the Cartel of the Suns as a terrorist organization that hasn't received much attention despite being in the United States courts. What role does Colombia play in the deployment of U.S. troops in the Caribbean to pursue drug traffickers? One of these criminal organizations, the Cartels of the Suns, is associated with the dictator Nicolas Maduro and the leadership of the Venezuelan regime. The United States announced this Thursday that it will deploy troops from that country to the Caribbean Sea to pursue Latin American drug traffickers. One of these criminal organizations, the Cartel of the Suns, is associated with dictator Nicolas Maduro and the leadership of the Venezuelan regime. The Secretary of State Marco Rubio said publicly, the Cartel of the Suns is one of the largest organizations in the hemisphere. The Maduro regime is not a government, it's a criminal organization. They are simply exporting poison to the United States. They are killing, they are destroying communities. So it's a very serious issue, and we have many countries cooperating with us in that effort, and some, unfortunately, are not, the Republican said. But beyond the announcement, how can we understand the United States position, and what role does Gustavo Petro's government play? For the expert, the United States is setting the tone. The military surveillance and patrolling certainly reinforces the militaristic approach to the fight against GERDs. I think it has important consequences because this is the first step towards implementing a policy related to terrorist groups, truly associating criminal groups with terrorism. That is to say, the expansion of U.S. powers could eventually lead to clashes with other governments. In the case of Colombia, Defense Minister General Pedro Sanchez endorsed the U.S. decision. The deployment of these forces in different countries respecting sovereignty and in accordance with the international cooperation protocols will always be welcome, and it is key here that cohesion amongst nations radically affects international organized crime, he noted. According to the internationalist Gonzalez, this could generate tensions and territorial sovereignty. This type of association between organized crime and terrorism is related to what's happening in Venezuela. The fact that these ships are moving to the coast is obviously a show of force intended to pressure Maduro. However, in the case of Colombia, in this final year of the Petro administration, it is unlikely that the leftist leader will allow any kind of U.S. military interference in Venezuela to occur under his command. This type of movement only escalates and significantly strains relations between Caracas and Washington. Colombia has certainly already demonstrated its position in favor of defending the territorial integrity of a country, Gonzalez points out, which is not the case, the experts add, in conflicts such as the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Organized crime is being attacked by the United States in a relatively aggressive manner. The vast majority of illegal groups have a sort of safe haven in Venezuela, which possibly protects them and facilitates girl trafficking. So Colombia obviously appeals, as any other government and state would, to the defense of territorial sovereignty. The outlook, concludes Professor Camila Gonzalez, is uncertain given the role of the Petro administration in the last year and in the context of polarization such as the one we are experiencing now. Now, it is time for the Expat Corner. And again, I have a story. This one is from Ed Richardson. Let's jump into this right away. This is from his words. And anytime, again, any of you other expats in Medellin, in Colombia, anywhere else that want to share a good story, nothing negative about the girls or where to go for girls or all this good stuff, but just something that can benefit the viewers and benefit those who possibly want to be an expat in Colombia. Let's jump into this story right away. Okay, this story is entitled 5 Years in Colombia, a Black American Engineer's Journey Towards Cultural Connection and Community Impact. In May of 2019, I stepped off a plane in Medellin with a suitcase full of engineering know-how, a lifetime of experience as a Black man in America, and a deep curiosity about what life could look like beyond the U.S. borders. 5 years later, I found not only a new home, but a new rhythm. One shaped by Colombian warmth, resilience, and a culture that, while imperfect, offers refreshing tolerance and human connection. Culture, a tapestry of warmth and complexity. Colombia's cultural identity flows from indigenous African and Spanish roots. Family is central, music is everything, and people greet you with sincerity. In Medellin, the Paisas are known for their entrepreneurial spirit and friendliness. While issues of race and class persist, Colombians generally judge you by your behavior, not your skin tone or accent. Tolerance here isn't indifference, it's an invitation. If you show respect, people welcome you with open curiosity. That's a powerful shift from the guarded interactions I often faced in the U.S. From visitor to resident, securing the Colombian M visa through real estate. One of the most transformative milestones was securing legal residency via the Colombian migrant M10 visa through property investment. My process unfolded in clear, deliberate steps. Property selection. I identified a home in Medellin that met the government's investment threshold, at least COP $493 million, 350 times the monthly minimum wage in 2025. Legal review. With trusted local professionals, I examined the property's legal standing via the Certificado de Tradición y Libertad, confirming its clean title and ownership history. Currency legalization. I transferred funds from the U.S., registering the investment through Banco de la República using the F4 declaration, an essential step for foreign capital validation. Visa application. I submitted my documents to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, including the notarized deed and proof of investment. Within weeks, I was granted a 3-year M visa. Cédula de extranjera. I completed registration at Migración Colombia, receiving my foreign resident ID card, and officially began my long-term Colombian chapter. This process didn't provide residency. It deepened my sense of commitment to Colombia and expanded my potential for meaningful civic engagement. A plea to my brothers: come with good intentions. To my fellow Black American men considering life abroad, come with good intentions and a clear understanding of what respect looks like in Colombia. We carry a legacy of brilliance, resilience, and innovation. Lead with that, not with the performative swagger that too often gets misread as culture. Medellin welcomes us, but only when we bring dignity, humility, and personal responsibility. No do-rags in business settings or government offices. No public arguments. No sagging pants or loud, disruptive behavior. That's not cultural expression. It's social malpractice in a country that values decorum. Colombians won't hesitate to enforce their standards. Act foolishly and you'll find yourself in a jail cell, or on a flight back to the U.S. with your visa revoked. This isn't assimilation, it's elevation. Dress with pride, speak respectfully, represent something greater than yourself. you're shaping how Colombia sees Black American men and how we see ourselves. Dress and demeanor, representing yourself intentionally. Colombian men value appearance. Clean shoes, tailored denim, and a collared shirt signal respect. For Black American men, it's about intentionality. For Black men, it's not about losing identity, it's about intentionality. Your conduct matters. Loud or entitled behavior distances you. Instead, greet others with buenas tardes, learn the language, and carry yourself with quiet confidence. You'll be surprised how far that gets you. Cost of living, Medellin versus major U.S. cities. Medellin's affordability empowers expats to live richly while spending modestly. Here's a snapshot. City average monthly cost, one person, Medellin is cheaper by Washington, D.C., $3,149, that's 71% lower. New Orleans, $2,222 lower, that's 59% lower. San Diego, $3,428 US. Los Angeles, $3,197. Chicago, $2,676. San Francisco, $3,905. And Medellin, $900 US. Okay. Low cost for entrepreneurial pursuits, community projects, and longer stays, especially for Black Americans navigating financial barriers back home. Safety and street smarts, thriving without fear. Colombia's safety has improved markedly, but caution is still wise. For Black Americans, the key is blending in and practicing situational awareness. Skip the jewelry and flashy clothes, use ride apps like InDriver or Didi, avoid isolated areas after dark, learn basic Spanish, it builds trust, respect local laws and customs. Safety here often depends more on your behavior than on your passport. From expat to ally, building bridges beyond borders. Black American men bring insight, creativity, and resilience. Colombia needs that energy. Here's how to engage. Volunteer to teach English or STEM in underserved communities. Support Afro-Colombian organizations or art collectives. Mentor young professionals through bilingual workshops. Champion Black-owned Colombian businesses. Your presence can move beyond personal escape. It can fuel collective empowerment. About the author, this again is from Ed Richardson. Ed Richardson, a certified manufacturing engineer, transportation systems engineer, technical writer, and consultant at ESA Management and Engineering Consultants. He brings more than 17 years of experience at Ford, GE aircraft engines, Caterpillar turbine engines, and Procter & Gamble, specializing in scalable automation, robotics, and precision systems. Edward is a bilingual strategist and advocate for racial and economic equity, bringing technical insight with public education. He currently operates from Medellin, Colombia, supporting international clients across Latin America and the United States. So shout out and thanks to Ed for sharing this story. He's got other stories too. If you'd like to see those, I'll make sure the link is in the description of this video. And I don't know if it'll be every Friday, but let's say at least 1 week, I want to do at least one of these videos from the expats. Again, I'll call this segment the Expats Corner. It's your corner. It's your time to tell your story if you are an expat in Colombia. Again, you're up to date with the latest news out of this time, the U.S. and Colombia relations, and a story from an expat. Remember to travel, but travel safe.
Thanks for hitting like. Thanks for hitting like. DCBornRob.
So hey girl, thanks for coming by my place.
No worries. You mind if our girlfriend can come by with us?
Hell no. This is why I watch DCBornRob.
Headed to Medellin, Colombia? See my guy Andres with Nomad Travel for safe airport pickups and drop-offs and tours. Contact information in the description below.